The Marvel Cinematic Universe teaches us to accept death as closure. A hero falls, the world mourns, balance is restored. But some deaths don't just end stories, they prevent them. Tony Stark's death wasn't just a sacrifice, it was a containment measure. So let's remove it. Let's imagine the timeline where Tony Stark survives Avengers Endgame. Not as a variant, not as a memory, but as a living, breathing constant inside the MCU. The moment that changes everything. In this reality, the final battle still happens. Thanos is defeated, the universe is restored, but Tony doesn't snap. Maybe Hulk takes the full burden. Maybe Thor finishes the job. Maybe the stones are destroyed another way. The point is, Tony survives, and the world reacts differently than anyone expects, because instead of mourning a hero, humanity crowns a guardian. Stark Industries stock explodes. World leaders line up for private meetings. Defense councils stop asking if Tony should be involved, and start asking how much. And for the first time in his life, Tony Stark doesn't feel resistance. He feels permission. Tony tries to retire, he really does. He plays with Morgan. He builds small things. He pretends the universe is quiet again. But Tony Stark has never trusted quiet, because quiet is what came before the invasion, before Ultron, before Thanos. And now Tony knows something no human ever should. The universe is hostile. So when governments ask him to stay involved, just as a consultant, when he agrees. When they ask him to build safeguard, he improves them. When they ask him to anticipate threats, he starts modeling futures, and that's where the line disappears. The second Ultron. But smarter Tony remembers Ultron. He remembers failure, so he doesn't make a sentient AI again. Instead, he makes something worse. A distributed intelligence system. No single mind, no rebellion, thousands of predictive nodes, quantum simulations, threat analysis engines running across satellites, drones, and Stark servers. It doesn't decide, it advises, and Tony listens, because the system keeps showing the same thing. Another invasion is coming. Earth becomes a managed planet. At first, the changes are subtle. Airspace becomes automated. Weapons trafficking collapses overnight. Certain regions receive security assistance whether they ask for it or not. Crime drops. Wars end before they start. The Avengers still exist, but they're no longer first responders. They're symbols. Tony doesn't consult them anymore. He informs them. Steve Rogers walks away. Again, Steve sees it early. He doesn't argue. He doesn't fight. He simply realizes the world has chosen safety over freedom. And he leaves. Not to the past, to obscurity, because Steve Rogers understands something Tony never did. A world that doesn't choose to be free will never stay free. Peter becomes Tony's anchor. Not intentionally, but inevitably. Tony doesn't want Peter to make the same mistakes, so he gives him everything. Better suits, faster reactions, instant backups. And Peter stops improvising, stops questioning. He becomes precise, efficient. By the time Peter's in his mid-20s, he's no longer Spider-Man. He's Stark's successor, and he believes that control is responsibility. The sorcerers notice Doctor Strange doesn't interfere at first, but reality starts bending. Tony's simulations don't just observe the multiverse, they interact with it. Probability shifts. Micro-incursions appear. Outcomes change before they're chosen. The Ancient One warned about this. Reality doesn't like being predicted. Wanda Maximoff is neutralized. Politely, Tony never trusts Wanda completely. Not because she's evil, because she's uncontrollable. So when her grief begins to fracture reality, Tony intervenes early. No Westview, no compassion-driven resolution, just containment. A beautiful facility. Perfect care, no freedom. And Wanda doesn't explode. She simmers. Doom is born from resistance. Victor Von Doom rises in response to Stark, not rivalry. Latveria becomes the only nation outside Stark's system, a place where magic and science evolve together. Doom watches Earth slowly lose agency, and he decides someone has to stop Tony Stark, not kill him, limit him. The multiverse breaks. Because Tony won't stop watching it, Tony's models grow more advanced. He sees variants. He sees timelines where he dies and timelines where he rules. He sees realities where the Avengers become enforcers, and he chooses the versions where humanity survives longest, no matter the cost. That's when incursions accelerate. Doomsday isn't an invasion, it's an intervention in Avengers. Doomsday, the threat isn't Thanos-level destruction, it's ideological collapse. Tony Stark variants begin colliding, each convinced they are right, each certain the universe needs them. Dr. Doom doesn't attack Earth to conquer it. He attacks the Stark network across realities. Because Tony Stark is a multiversal constant, and constants destabilize infinite systems. Iron Man becomes the problem the Avengers must solve. The final conflict isn't hero versus villain. It's protector versus freedom. Some Avengers side with Tony, some side with Doom, and some realize too late that the universe wasn't saved by Iron Man's power, but by his willingness to end. Tony Stark didn't die because he had to. He died because the universe needed him to stop. Because a living Iron Man doesn't know when enough is enough. And the darkest MCU reality isn't one ruled by evil. It's one protected forever. So what if Iron Man never died? The Avengers would still exist. The world would still turn. The universe would still survive. But choice would disappear quietly. And Doomsday wouldn't be about destruction. It would be about removing the one man who refused to let go of control.